This is the Ted Wallison Podcast. Brought to you by Halenda's, the meat people. Enjoy their award-winning products at selected Metro, Sobeys, Fortino's, and Foodland locations. Halenda's, the way sausage should taste. And Tom's Place. For the finest in men's clothing at unbeatable prices, it's Tom's Place at 190 Baldwin in the heart of Kensington Market. Tom's Place will suit you. And now, here's Ted Wallison.
My special guest this week is a comedian, singer, actor, voice artist, and author. She has shared the bill with Jim Carrey, Dana Carvey, Howie Mandel, New Kids in the Hall, to name just a few. Her performances have taken her right across this country and the United States, as well into Scotland for the iconic May Fest Festival. But my friends, there's so much more to learn, so let's do that. And welcome, Marla Lukofsky.
A lot of people say I have a voluptuous body. You can always spot me in the summertime. I'm the one walking down the beach with my thighs applauding. Fiction there, you know, girls. Sparks flying and people with cigarettes, no matches chasing me for like, you know.
Nice to see you. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Nice to see you too, Ted.
It has been a while. We've known each other for, I was thinking about that the other day. Was it like 20 years, 30 years?
For sure. It was
Something
definitely, I would say, since 1978.
One of us was still a virgin then. I remember that.
It was me.
Okay.
I won't give you the deets on that one.
I didn't realize that you had begun. When we first met, we were both doing stand-up, but you had begun way, way before that. You go back to like 1973 when you were a teenager. You performed at the I talk about iconic. It was the Riverboat Cafe,
Exactly.
the coffee house, I should say.
Exactly, the coffee house. Yeah.
And you just like balls to the wall, pick up the phone and said, "Hey, I'm a singer and I want to come perform."
That's exactly it. I thought, why not start at the top? I have nothing to lose. I was tired of playing in my bedroom. And as you know, the article said, when can you get down here? Our opening act just canceled. And I said, 30 minutes. And I was there in 20, you know, and the first thing I did was go into that green room and look for Joni Mitchell's name. And I made sure that I signed my name near hers on the wall. And then I had tons of diarrhea.
Yeah. Okay. Good. You really began your career not as a comedian, but rather as a folk singer who told funny stories in between tunes.
That's exactly right. And I wrote a few serious songs, but I wrote funny songs, so it was innately coming out of me still. And they were 3-minute funny songs, and you know. There I was at the riverboat doing my funny songs and people are smiling. And then in between the songs, you chat to the audience and they started to laugh, like really laugh. And I went, ooh, I like that. I think I'm going to talk some more. And then I played a song and they sat there and smiled. And then I finished the song and talked again and they laughed out loud. And that's when the manager came up to me and said, "You're not a singer, you're a comic. Go to all the funny nights at the folk clubs."
Yeah, and did you do the comedy in between the songs as just a way of sort of passing time or to relieve stress, tension, nerves, for example?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was doing. But because I'm a very open, honest person, I was telling them about my loose bowels because I was so nervous and how I used to take all the toilet paper and put it all on the toilet seat. And then when I would sit down, it would swoosh all the toilet paper off. And then there was no more toilet paper and they would be laughing. And then I told them something else that happened to me on the way down because I was having the baby seat in the car and the guitar in the guitar. And I said, well, I have the baby seat, not because I have a baby, but because I can't see over the dash, you know. So, and they were just laughing. Unlike you, but they were just laughing.
No. you do make fun of your height because you're, as Groucho Marx once said, he's well over 4 feet. How tall are you?
I'm 5 feet and shrinking.
Yeah, well, so am I, but I'm taller than that. But I'm shrinking too, and I hate that. But you're 5 feet.
I'm 5 feet and shrinking. But you know what they say? You know, when you grow older, you can be guaranteed of two things. You shrink and your nose keeps growing. I'm screwed. I figure
funny.
by that time I'm 65, I'm going to have to walk on my nose to reach the top shelf.
Well, you know what I noticed? That some of the older gentlemen, their ears keep going. Like, I think by the time George Burns hit 100, I swore I thought he was going to fly away.
It's true. I noticed that my earlobes are getting lower and lower. So it's the nose, it's the ears, and you're shrinking. And it's like, this is cruel upon cruel.
Yeah, you're right. So 1973, this all begins for you. A bit of a momentous occasion for you, I suppose. A watershed moment. 1975, at the Friars Club in Toronto, the late Gene Taylor, who was a television performer, singer, comedian, used to run an improv there. And all kinds of performers would come down. And you went down there one night, and you killed them.
I killed him. And he said, you're a regular. You got to come every weekend. And I said, okay. And I loved it. It was a really quaint room. It was all easy chairs. It was all easy chairs and these little coffee tables and cocktail tables. And everybody was really nice. And Larry Horowitz was there and a couple other guys. And then, of course, one night Rick Moranis came in with Rob Cowan and they did their bit. But Rob Cowan wrote a great paragraph about his memory of that. I raised the bar for everybody because I did well with the guitar, and then I take off the guitar and then I do the Wizard of Oz in 3 minutes and impressions. And Gene was so supportive and nice to me. The thing is, Ted, I can't get it out of my head. He pulled me aside and he said, if you don't play Massey Hall by the time you're 30, you're never gonna. And it's like, oh my God, it was getting close to 30 years old and I wasn't getting Massey Hall. It was not, nope, it wasn't in the cards for me. And I thought, oh God, what did he know?
The Wizard of Oz in 3 minutes. The first time that I heard you do that, I was on the floor laughing, and I'm thinking, I have no idea where you came up with that concept, but you did it with a number of different films in addition to The Wizard, right?
Yeah, I did it for CBC Radio. They had seen me do my act, and they had approached me and said, would you be willing to write 3-minute movies for all sorts of different movies, movies from the past and movies that are currently playing? And you'll be a regular on the Arthur Black show called Basic Black, which is a national show. And I said, absolutely. So I did. So I did Funny Girl. I did The King and I also did The Sound of Music. The hills are alive with the sound of music. I'm trying to be a nun at the Abbey in Salzburg, Austria, but I'm always late for things because I'm singing about nature.
You're always late, Maria, and now me and the sisters have to have a meeting about you. Well, what do you think, girl? She's a pest, she's a pig, she's a pain in the... Ask Sister Betrayal.
How do you solve a problem like Maria? How does she sing and make her nostrils flare?
I've decided...
I love that. I don't know how you do that. That's great.
And then I also did Gone with the Wind, but that was not in 3 minutes. That was in 6 minutes with an intermission because it was a 4-hour movie.
That's right, it was. At one point, you almost left stand-up to become part of the Second City world because Marty Short and Andrew Alexander, who began Second City here in Toronto, were watching you perform one night and came up and offered you a position with the main troupe.
Well, first they had offered me that, and I said, well, I don't think I'm, qualified. And he said, well, what about, well, first of all, we want to build a room around you, and we're going to build this room at the fire hall, and you got to play there 6 nights a week, and after a month you have to have all new material. As soon as he said all new material, I went, oh no, this isn't going to work. Because, I put in a new joke every year, and then I, circles around, and eventually in 10 years I've got a new act, But he didn't want to let me go, and he just said, okay, what about the touring group? And I said, okay, knowing it was an opportunity, but also knowing in my gut it was a mistake. Because what happened, and I don't talk about this a lot, is that the resentment of the troupe was enormous because I didn't sign up for the classes. I was just discovered as a stand-up, and they referred to me as, she's just a stand-up. So when they gave me my cues to come into the scene, and they were notoriously unkind and not helpful. And it was an unhappy period. And I just said, this isn't working out. And they said, yeah, it's not Andrea. I said, I'm not Andrea Martin. And that was the problem.
Yeah, so you move on from that, and a wise decision in retrospect. Marla Lukofsky is my guest. Wise decision for you, because you went on and you started doing acting. You did a ton of voice work. How did that all come about? Just through an agent?
Well, yeah, I approached my acting agent, who actually only took me on. It was Oscars and Abrams at the time, Gail Abrams, who took me on because a friend of mine who she respected, who was an actress, suggested me. And she said, I've never taken on comics. That was kind of unheard of then, to take on a comic to do acting. And she started to send me out, and I just started to book the TV commercials, like boom, 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 because I was the new face, and I had timing, and I had that different face, the big nose, the dark hair. And I just started to get booked and booked. And then I said, you know what, I want to do voice work. And she said, well, you can't. It's a very small niche, and they don't let new people in. I said, I'll make the tape. And I used all my radio friends who were interviewing me for, stand up. And I said, help me, let me into your studio. Let's record. I'll write the scripts for these radio commercials, mock radio commercials. We put it together. I gave her cassettes at the time, 100 cassettes. She mailed them out, and I started to get bookings. And then it was no turning back. And at 1 year, it was actually the year that I moved to LA, I actually got 75 radio commercials on one contract. So I was really on the radio a lot.
Wow.
It was
good. You were the voice of, what is it, one of the Care Bears?
I was the voice of two. I was the voice of Good Luck Bear. That's the green one with the clover leaf. And I was also Playful Heart Monkey. And because I've just been re-editing and getting footage of all those episodes, I'm more familiar with it. That actually, Playful Heart Monkey got a lot of parts, actually. But I kept thinking it was just Good Luck Bear that was the star. And that was one of my first. Actually, the first role that I got was Bingo Beaver on the Get Along Gang, and it was just a pilot. And when the agent called and said, "You're the beaver," I said, "Excuse me, I got a waxing job. What are you talking about? I got a Brazilian. There's nothing there." And but that one didn't turn into a series. But then it was the Care Bears, and then
Can you still do the voice?
Can I do the voice?
Yeah.
Let's go to the Caramobile, Care Bear. Yahoo! Yeah.
There's got to be a whole generation of kids right there that you could entertain for hours all by yourself.
And I do. I use it every time I'm in a predicament in a store or anything, or I'm just about to have some bladder examination with a tube up my urethra. And I said, "Doctor, did I tell you that I'm Good Luck Bear in the Care Bear cartoons?" And they go, "Really? I'll be gentle with you then. I'll use it anytime I can get."
Good for you. Good for you. So in 1990 rolls along, and Marla Lukofsky decides, well, I'm going out to L.A. because that's the land of showbiz, and that's the land of paradise. And kind of a couple of not so fortunate things occurred to you while you were there, including an experience with an earthquake. Tell me about that.
Yeah. It was the 1994 Northridge earthquake. They call it Northridge because that was the epicenter, but it wiped out the valley. And that was my first apartment at the Oakwood Apartments in Sherman Oaks. And, there was a couple of tremors over the first couple of years I was there. And I thought, oh, well, that's really interesting. And it was 4:31 a.m. in that January month. And I'm lying there and I'm hearing a roaring at that time, 4:31. And I thought, oh, it must be a big truck coming by. And then that roared so much. I thought, oh, this isn't a truck. Oh, maybe a plane's crashing. Oh, my God, I could hear the earth cracking. And I went, what is going to happen? And I was on this Murphy bed, and I held on to the sides of the railings. And the fridge went flying. Everything went flying. Suddenly, I was coated with appliances and stuff. And I thought, And then it was silent. And I thought, oh my God, am I the only one alive? Because I thought I'd be hearing screaming or anything. And I didn't. And I just thought I have to kind of get out of this apartment. And it was hard getting out, but I did. And that's when I heard, help, help, can you help me? And that was that nasty neighbor who was always pounding on my wall saying, turn down your TV. And my TV was on 2 out of 10. So that gives you an indication what kind of personality she was. And she said, I can't get my door open. I'm going to die. And I knocked her door down with my body. And I grabbed her, and she was in her underwear and no shoes. And I had grabbed my street shoes because I put them underneath the Murphy bed so they were intact. And oddly, I have to tell you, I slept in the nude the only time in my entire life, the night of the earthquake. So because I was nervous about being in the nude, I did put my clothes underneath my pillow. So I quickly got dressed. And I carried her on my back down this black hall that you couldn't see and down a disengaging staircase that led to the outside pool area. And we were hanging on the staircase, that was swinging by wires. She just kept going. I said, we're going to make it. And then when we got out of there, it was a flood. It was a flood and gas leaks and fires. And then I kind of went blank, actually, and kind of came to. I was just standing there. It was a shock thing of something because we were all stranded and there was news crews and fires everywhere. And I thought that it was like Armageddon. I thought the world had just split open because I didn't know that the other side of the valley, which was the city, was intact. They just had cracks in the wall. But in the valley, the freeways had collapsed, the malls had collapsed, and my apartment had lost a floor and the neighborings, and it was bad.
I would have been on a plane like the next morning back to Toronto or Butte, Montana, anywhere where there's no fault line.
Right.
But
And
you
the
hung
thing
in.
was, well, the airport was closed because it wasn't safe to use, but they did have the Burbank airport still running. I didn't want to come back to Toronto in January. I always get kind of depressed here. And I thought, I was really loving LA. And I thought, I don't want to go back to Toronto, even if I'm homeless. That's a pretty strong statement. So
yeah, really.
I didn't come back. And I found a place to sleep on a floor at a friend's place once I could remember her name because I couldn't remember anybody's names. Wow. And then I got a flight to Atlanta, Georgia, where my girlfriend was working on a movie set because everybody's going to Atlanta, Georgia to film now, And, but that was even then they were doing that. And she said, I have a hotel room because of the film. Come and stay with me until you gather your thoughts and figure out what you want to do. And I had no belongings. I couldn't get to my belongings until a month later when they let us go back into the damaged building with hard hats. And I gathered everything on my back in duffel bags and suitcases, and people were shouting at me in the lineup of people trying to get into the building. We were being supervised by security, and they said, look at that woman, she looks like a mule, because I was carrying everything on my back that I owned. And I got out, and then it was not an easy year for me. So even though I stayed in LA, it was sunny, it was warmer, and I went into a post-traumatic stress kind of syndrome. And then I came home in the summer and healed up and went back and man, I'm going to go back to that LA place because I like it.
And things were going fairly well for you. I mean, you were performing with a lot of big names. You were relatively busy. You were carving out a good career for yourself, making a bona fide life.
I was.
And then suddenly, toward the end of the decade, 1998, you're diagnosed with breast cancer.
Yeah. So everything was going great. I had got an agent. I was being sent out on auditions. My opening act in the regular comedy place called the Rose Tattoo, which was a great cabaret, was Sherry Shepherd, who's now a bigger star, or bigger than me, I should say. Bigger than me. She's a big established personality now. Mm-hmm. I thought everything was going really well, and I felt very at peace. I remember the sensation. I felt actually what happened, Ted. I was also doing waitressing on the side for showbiz events. And one of the events, we're only told once we arrive because of security, was a Jim Carrey premiere.
Mm-hmm.
And so I hadn't seen Jim since we used to work together here in Toronto. So there I am with a tray in my hand and a white shirt and black pants. And I see him and I had asked permission. Can I speak to him? And they said, well, no, you're not. I said, please, I'm telling you, he knows me. I know him. Seriously. And they said, okay, but you better be telling the truth. So I walk into the area and he's surrounded by reporters. And it's a big cocktail party, and he's going crazy with the reporters. And he sees me from afar, and he says, oh, my God, Marla Lukofsky. And he jumps off this platform, and he pushes the reporters away. And he runs up to me, lifts me up in his arms, swings me around. We hug each other. We talk very briefly. And then he says, I've got to go back. I said, I know. And then he went back. And then I went home, and I went, I'm so at peace because I always felt funny about how things worked out. He deserves all the success in the world. I was just hoping to be on that level in LA, and it never happened that way. And I came home and felt a lump in my breast and called my GP, who there calls you right back right away. Come on in. Not like here, like, oh, just monitor it and, I'll see you in a month. And, and even though I had just had a mammogram like a month before, he said, I want you to go back anyways. Like, they don't do that here. They said, well, it says nothing here. I went back and she said, you know what, I want you to have an ultrasound because the mammogram is not showing anything. And yet I can feel it too. And the ultrasound showed it clearly as suspicious. So that's the problem with just doing mammograms only here. Because people have dense breasts and a lot of women have dense breasts.
Yeah. But what would that set you back cost-wise? Here, you're delayed, but you're not paying for it. In the States, you can get a bypass in an hour and a half if you want, but it's going to cost you $60,000.
Right. So, because my sister was bugging me to buy health insurance in the United States, I finally did a year before this happened. So I had 70% coverage and a high-end package called a PPO. So it's preferred physician. What the O is, I don't know. Instead of an HPO or HBO. HBO is the station. Anyways, I got to call any doctor I wanted and take them. And that's what I did. So I was happy paying 30%. And a lot of stuff was covered. And I was very lucky that I bought the insurance. And yes, it was very expensive every month. But boy, was it worth it in this situation.
Ted Woloshyn returns in a moment.
Hey, it's Ted Woloshyn for Tom's Place. Our fall merchandise is starting to arrive, but we still have massive amounts of summer clothing that needs to be cleared. Blowout sale prices on virtually everything, like Cohen suits, regularly $650, now $399 each, or 3 for $1,000. Plus beautiful sports jackets and designer dress pants, 50% off. Check out our deals throughout the store with huge savings off our already below retail prices. If you need a suit for an upcoming special event, we are Toronto's one-stop suit shop. For the finest outfit for every occasion, there is no better time to find the perfect addition to your wardrobe. Everything is on sale to make way for our fall merchandise. Tom's Place is open weekdays from 11 to 6, 10 to 5 Saturday, 12 to 5 Sunday. Visit Tom's Place, 190 Baldwin in Kensington Market. Tom's Place will suit you.
Now back to Ted Woloshyn.
So what finally brought you back to Toronto? Your parents' illness?
Well, I certainly came back for a visit because it was a long 2 years of treatment and recovery, and I hadn't been home in a couple of years, and I still kept my apartment here, which I constantly would come back and forth to get work because I kept getting work here. I came back for a visit. And my father was suddenly more older, and I realized that I shouldn't stay so long away. And at that time, I had also lost my agent, lost my manager. Things were falling apart for me in LA, and all I had was the love of the city. When I got cancer, my friends were not my friends anymore. It was a very difficult time, and I felt very alone, not because of LA, but because of circumstances of who I knew and how the disease was affecting me, and I should say the treatments and the recovery. So I moved to Oregon, actually, because I was in a relationship with somebody and stayed there 2 to 3 years, and then went home for a visit and saw that, I better stay here right now. But I made sure that I became a citizen of the United States because it had given me so many opportunities. So I became a citizen, but I came home to help my parents, and then my father suddenly died of an abdominal hemorrhage that wasn't handled properly at one of our worst hospitals. And then the next year, my mother wasn't feeling well, and she got leukemia. So I stayed there for a year helping her until she died. And in her home the last 2 weeks, which is what she wanted. And then it was like, how do I go back to LA now? I'm depressed. I lost my parents. Oh, yeah. After I lost my parents, I was walking my dog that I newly bought to help lift my spirits, and I got hit by another dog in my leg that shattered my leg in 3 places, and then I couldn't walk for a year. So there was no running back to Los Angeles at that time.
Wow.
And so I had a lot to figure out. And then during that time, that's when I had somebody read my memoir that I put together about my cancer journey and said, you should put this into a one-woman show to be a keynote speaker. And that's how that came. So once I started to walk again, and that took a year to learn how to walk again, I started to get booked as a keynote speaker, and that's how I got to the other leg of the journey.
Yeah, and the book is called I'm Still Here, and So Is My Hair.
Yeah, the show is called that, and the title of the manuscript is called that too. I'm still here, and so is my hair. But the thing is, Ted, because I've lived so long, the new title is I'm Still Here, and so is my hair, and now it's growing on my chin.
Okay. I'm just thinking for everything that an earthquake, breast cancer, you lose your father, you lose your mother, you lose you break your leg, you're out of commission, your mobility for a year. It's like if you didn't have your sense of humor, you would have been out a window.
I don't know how I held it together. And believe me, if you've ever seen Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, that's in that movie with Betty Davis and Joan Crawford. There's this scene where she's in the wheelchair and she's going mad because her sister is torturing her. She does wheelies in her bedroom. I eventually did that because I was living in my apartment with this huge cast from my hip to my toe for 6 months. And I had a wheelchair, and that was the only way I could move from the commode chair. Yeah. And at one point, and people weren't visiting anymore, and I was starting to do circles. In fact, I took a hammer once to my cast. I took my walker and threw it across the apartment. I was going crazy.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It was very difficult. But I did have a sense of humor at times when I wasn't trying to tear my cast off and get through loss, emotional loss. I think it's just an innate part of me, but I'm certainly not one of those comics that make a joke, in the middle of a funeral or something. Although I've done that once or twice.
We all have, I think, yes.
Yeah, I better take that back. Someone's going to write me and go, actually, Marla, do you remember that joke you said in front of your friend's coffin? Oh, yeah. So, anyways, I don't know. We survive. I think that's what we do. We all survive, don't we, Ted?
I think you're right. Marla Lukofsky is my guest, a comedian, voiceover artist, actress, and a singer. Started as a folk singer, but you re-entered the world of singing a number of years ago, but as a jazz singer.
Just you, just me. Let's find a cozy spot to cuddle and coo. Just us, just we. I've missed an awful lot. My trouble is you. Oh, gee, what are your charms for? What arms for? What are my arms for? Use your imagination. Just you, just me. I'll tie that lover's knot. I'll tie a lover's knot. I'll tie that lover's knot round wonderful you.
How did that transition take place?
I was doing one of my keynote speeches at the Eglinton Theater, and one of the acts, who was a singer, looked at me and said, "Aren't you Marla Lukofsky, the comedian who does The Wizard of Oz in 3 minutes? You were really funny, but I remember you used to sing really well with your guitar. Do you know that there's this jazz club on Marley called Chalkers, and every Wednesday night they have this great open mic night with a professional jazz trio? You should come down." And I said, "Oh, I don't have any jazz songs." She goes, "Everybody's got charts. I'll lend you my charts and you'll just come." And she bugged me, and I eventually went over to the club one Wednesday night, and I took the stage, and of course they started to laugh about something I did. I don't know what I did. I was this innocent person, and they thought I was funny. And then I sang the song, and they kind of laughed at the serious song. And then I came off, and I went, "Who are you? You've got this thing, this charisma on stage." I said, "I'm Marla Lukofsky." And the girl said, "She's that stand-up comic, the one that did The Wizard of Oz in 3 minutes. Oh. So, and they said, "You've got to come back. You've got to come back." So I just kept coming back. And that group of people became like this second friendly family group, for better or for worse. We were this group of people, and they all sang jazz, and the musicians all came around and stuff, and it became a great thing. And then one night, this guy, Ori Dagan, came up to me and said, "Who are you? You've got this thing about you. I like the way you sing, but you've got this charisma on stage. I want to book you. If you can put 30 songs together, I'll start booking you." And I said, "Okay, I've got it." And he said, "Okay, you're going to start at the 120 Diner." And that's where I started.
Excellent. And so you continue to sing, or you're back singing again, but you're continuing with the comedy in between songs.
Absolutely. And I figured out I've got to do something different. And it wasn't actually that hard. Again, it was innately so happening. I segued each song. It was almost like one whole story. And so, for instance, I would say I'd like to dedicate, and I always told the musicians, you've got to keep playing. After they applaud, start in with this. And I gave them the beat one, whatever the speed I wanted. And I would write and said, "Give me 12 bars of this." And somehow, and they always said, "How do you do it?" I knew how to count the 12 bars in my head while I'm talking. And I would segue into, now this next song. And so the band's going, pum, 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 right? And while I'm talking, this next song is dedicated to all the vibrators out there. And I know you have them. If you have a vibrator right now, please stand up. Oh, come on, don't be shy. I heard the hum. So anyways, and the song is called You'd Be So Nice to Come Home To, because aren't they really, ladies? And that's how I did every song. It had some comedic, interesting introduction, all the while with the band playing, and it just kept going.
That's very funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. And are you doing much of that now? What are you doing now, other than talking to me and wasting an afternoon?
Yeah. When COVID struck, everything changed for me. So I became isolated, having had serious pneumonia 3 times, with one with hospitalization. Yeah. And, at the time, the vaccines weren't out, so I didn't know really what it entailed. So I was going stir crazy. So I started to write scripts and film with my iPhone funny videos and editing them, because I knew how to edit on QuickTime Player. And I just started to do 3-minute videos. A lot of them turned into cooking videos, but they were funny, really funny. And then TikTok became popular, and then I started to do TikTok videos. So then really my actual online profile raised 100%, where I used to have, where they have that count of 4,000K or something. So now it's like 72,000K. And my presence online is very large now. I mean, not compared to, certain people who are members of families with last names starting with K, that they have a high profile, doing nothing but wear clothes. But That's what I do. I do funny videos. I post a lot, and I just went out for my first open mic. I came out and did a thing, and everyone's like happy to see everybody, but everyone's getting COVID every time they come. So it's like, I don't know. You put your mask on, and then they put this condom thing on the microphone, and then you sing and you take that off. So I'm just playing it carefully and doing it step by step until I'm really ready to get out there and do stuff.
Sure. I can understand. You'd have to be more careful than the average person because you're somewhat immunocompromised, right?
Yeah,
because
I am.
You're battling with cancer. I'm thrilled that you had the time to talk to me, and it's so good to see you again. And I hope to see you back on stage singing, making people laugh, and just acting like the lovable fool that you can be.
Oh, thank you, Ted.
From the bottom of my heart.
Thank you so much. It's lovely to see you, and wish you continued success on your podcast. And yeah, I hope to get back there and that we're both feeling great and doing the best we can.
I'll see you soon.
Okay.
So before we wrap up this week's episode with our special guest, Marla Lukofsky, here now is the Wizard of Oz in 3 minutes.
Mr. Gale, gotta get rid of that dog. It's a menace to society and it's gotta be destroyed.
Elvira Gulch, I've been dying to tell you that I've been thinking of you for the last 20 years, but being a Christian woman, I can't. So let somebody else do it.
I've been and you've had the answer all along.
Have I?
Yes, you have. So tap your shoes 3 times and say, there's no place like home.
All right. There's no place like home. There's no place like home, gosh, gee. There's no place like home. She makes my beds. There's no place like home. There's no place like home. There's no place like home.
Honey, Uncle Henry. Billy Bob, Woody Bob. I was in this land and the trees were talking, the fruit was talking, the flowers were talking, and Toto was talking too. Emmy, I think she gotta go to the doctor. No, I'm telling you the truth, so help me God. Toto, you can talk then. Gosh, she talk now. Toto decides to tell the story. Oh, get your heart hurting. Arrow dog. Well, you're really in trouble now. What's it going to do, Dorothy? Well, gotta find a place where there isn't any trouble. Is there such a place, Toto? No. You're optimistic of you, Toto. There must be a place far, far away that I can't get to by a boat or a moped. Oh, think, Dorothy, think. Maybe it's a laundromat. No, they're too dirty. Maybe it's France. Yes, they're always open with funny-looking waitresses. Ha! Where do they find them?
Hello, very much. I'd like to welcome you, Dorothy. Let's go boogie, push in the bush. It'll be history. We represent the little pup there, the name of the little pup there. Look, a beautiful basket line. It's good to dirty basket for that 30 examined dirt. And she's not only merely dead, she's really most sincerely dead. Follow the orca crowd, Dorothy.
All right. How can we with the orca crow with flower consulting with the rain? Did it to pull my tail.
Let's get some apples. Oh, you don't go pulling people's apples. It'll be blood feelings too.
Give it that, Dorothy. It's probably got worms in it anyways.
Bobbies will make them sleep. Now they'll sleep.
Oh, they're sleeping. I'll make it snow. Glinda, make it snow. Oh, it's a blizzard. They're waking up.
What is the modern stars out of sky? Come to the wonderland and open.
Get the broom. Yo-hee-oh, yo-ho-oh, yo-hee-oh, yo-ho. We'll get you out, Dorothy. Don't worry about it. And I'm all alone. The dirty monkeys with the diseases came into the door and left me. Dorothy, where are you? You left your dirty clothes under the bed. I told you never to do that. Where are you, Dorothy? Don't go on you.
I'll give you any arm. You dumb twit.
What do we do now, Scarecrow? I don't know. No brain. Remember, you promised me that way back when and didn't give her now. You're sorry. You scratched right back. I scratched her shit that a long time ago.
Little fire, Scarecrow.
Oh, it's over my Curse it, little girl. How could you move a magnificent body like me? We got the broom now. Let's go to the wizard. Give you heart, give you brain, give you courage. I'll take you home my balloon. Dorothy, don't worry about it.
Okay, let's say goodbye to everybody. Bye. Meow.
Oh, no. I'm never going to get back to Kansas now. Oh, shoot. Better say goodbye. Goodbye, Cowardly Lion. Don't cry. You got your courage. Oh. Bye, Tin Man. Don't you cry. You're Rust. Here's your organ. Goodbye, Scarecrow. I think I'll miss you most of all. happy about? I can't get back home. Look, Dorothy, in the sky. Here's someone who can help you. Ooh. I'm Glinda Deji Vuki coming back. You've had the answer all along, Dorothy.
Have I?
Yes, you have. Where are you from, girl? Oh, bad place. Okay. Now think way back. What have you learned from all of your experiences? Here, Nods. Well, I guess I've learned that next time I go searching for my own heart's desire, I won't go looking any farther than my own little white picket fence. Because if it isn't there, well, then I really hadn't lost it to begin with. Is that sucking up? That's right, 10 points. You got happy ones. Sandalfoot, you're going for the summer. Nonsense, spot, which. Okay, say the words. You know the words. There's no place like home. 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 There's no place like... Holy moly, Jiminy Crickets, wowie zowie. I was in this land, and you were there. And all I kept saying to everybody's, I want to go home. I want to go home. So they said, go home! Yes. I don't stay where I'm not wanted. Come here, Toto. You know, I ran away from home, but I'm never going to leave there ever again. Sorry, Toto. Because I love you all, and... Oh, gee, Annie, there's no place like home. But there's nothing like acid. What a bad trip. Thank you very much.
The Ted Wallachin Podcast has been brought to you by Halenda's, the Meat People. Enjoy their award-winning products at selected Metro, Sobeys, Fortinos, and Foodland locations. Halenda's, the way sausage should taste. And Tom's Place. For the finest in men's clothing at unbeatable prices, it's Tom's Place at 190 Baldwin in the heart of Kensington Market. Tom's Place will suit you. The Ted Wallachin Podcast is produced by Joey Roselli. Technical production by Paul Gatt. Music by Bike Thieves. I'm Becky Coles. Submit your questions and comments to ted@twmedia.ca.